You are one decision away from meeting the person you were meant to be. On an ordinary Monday morning, Ethan found an envelope lying outside his apartment door. There was no stamp, no return address, only his name written in neat handwriting. Curious, he opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "I've been waiting a long time to meet you." Nothing else. No signature. No explanation. He checked the hallway. No one was there. At work, the letter stayed in his mind. Meet me? Who? That evening, another envelope appeared. This one read, "You walk past me every single day." Again, no signature. Ethan became obsessed. For a week, a new letter arrived every morning. "You know my voice. You've heard my name. You've ignored my invitations." Finally, on the seventh day, one last letter arrived. It contained only an address. Curiosity overcame fear. After work, Ethan drove there. The address led to an abandoned train station on the edge of town. The platforms were silent. Old clocks had stopped years ago. As he walked inside, he heard footsteps behind him. A calm voice said, "I wonder how long it would take." Ethan turned around. Standing before him was someone who looked remarkably like him. Older, healthier, confident, peaceful. The stranger smiled. "You don't know me yet, but if you make one decision, you will." The stranger led Ethan onto the empty platform. An old departure board flickered to life. Instead of destinations, it displayed decisions. Start, forgive, learn, leave, begin, believe. Each destination had a train waiting. Only one. The stranger pointed toward the tracks. Every train leaves. It never returns. Ethan frowned. What happens if I miss one? You don't lose your future. You lose that version of it. A train quietly departed. The sign above it disappeared forever. Ethan watched it vanish into the distance. The stranger spoke again. People think destiny arrives one dramatic day. It doesn't. It departs quietly every time they refuse to choose. Another train arrived. Its destination simply read, "Courage." The doors opened. Nobody moved. Eventually, it left empty. The stranger whispered, "That happens every day." They walked into an old workshop. An elderly sculptor struck a massive block of marble with careful precision. Ethan asked, "How do you know what you're creating?" The sculptor smiled. "I don't create it. I reveal it." He chipped away another small piece. "The statue has always been inside. My decisions simply remove what doesn't belong." The stranger looked at Ethan. "So does life. Every disciplined habit, every honest conversation, every difficult choice, every courageous beginning. They aren't adding something new. They're uncovering the person you were always meant to become." The sculptor handed Ethan the hammer. "It only takes one strike to begin." Ethan hesitated, then gently hit the stone. Almost nothing changed. The sculptor smiled. "It never looks important until thousands of small decisions later." The stranger opened a large wooden door. Inside stood hundreds of mirrors. Each reflected a different version of Ethan. One looked exhausted. Another looked healthy. One appeared bitter. Another joyful. One successful. Another filled with regret. Ethan walked from mirror to mirror. "Which one is real?" The stranger answered, "None. And all of them. They're waiting for your decisions." Ethan stared into the mirror, showing the happiest version of himself. What made him different? The stranger smiled. He stopped negotiating with his potential. Nothing about his appearance amazed Ethan. It was his eyes. They reflected peace, confidence, purpose, a man who trusted himself. The stranger whispered, "Every decision moves you toward one mirror and away from another." Months passed. The stranger disappeared, but his words never did. Ethan began changing quietly. He woke earlier, read every day, exercised, reduced distractions, started the business he had postponed, apologized to people he had hurt, repaired broken friendships, protected his health, strengthened his faith, kept promises to himself. Then life became difficult. His business struggled. Money became tight. People doubted him. Several advised him to quit. One evening, he found himself standing on an old bridge. For a moment, he considered turning back. Then he remembered something. The bridge wasn't connecting two places. It was connecting two versions of himself. He kept walking. Years later, he realized the bridge had never been about crossing a river. It had always been about crossing fear. 20 years passed. Ethan returned to the abandoned train station. Nothing had changed. The clocks remained frozen. The platforms were empty. Then he heard familiar footsteps. Standing before him was the same stranger, except this time they looked identical. The stranger smiled. "I told you we'd meet." Ethan laughed. "You were me." The stranger nodded. "I always was. You simply hadn't become me yet." They stood silently together. No applause, no celebration, just quiet understanding. The future version slowly faded away. Before disappearing, he said one final sentence. "Thank you for choosing me. Somewhere today, a better version of you already exists. Not in another city, not in another lifetime. Inside tomorrow, they're healthier because they chose discipline. They're calmer because they chose perspective. They're wiser because they chose learning. They're stronger because they chose perseverance. They're fulfilled because they chose purpose. The distance between who you are today and who you could become is rarely measured in years. It's measured in decisions. One decision to begin, one decision to forgive, one decision to wake up earlier, one decision to stop making excuses, one decision to protect your habits, one decision to keep your promises, one decision to believe you're capable of more. Life changes far less dramatically than movies suggest. It changes quietly. One conversation, one page, one workout, one prayer, one opportunity accepted, one fear confronted, one ordinary decision repeated until it becomes extraordinary. Years from now, people will admire your confidence. They'll admire your discipline. They'll admire your peace. They'll assume you were born different. They'll never see the thousands of invisible decisions that created you. Because greatness rarely arrives like lightning. It grows like a tree, one ring at a time, one season at a time, one decision at a time. The person you dream about becoming isn't waiting for better luck. They aren't waiting for more money. They aren't waiting for perfect timing. They're waiting for you to decide. Today, not tomorrow, not next month, not next year. Today, because one decision has the power to redirect an entire lifetime. If this message challenged the way you think, subscribe to The Legacy Mind, where every conversation is designed to help you think deeper, live wiser, and become more. Remember this, you don't meet the person you were meant to be by accident. You meet them by the decisions you make every day. And you are only one decision away from beginning that journey.